Because I'm assuming that if we rezone the golf course area, we could rezone that. I know we're sitting there actually denying somebody the right to build a home someplace, which I don't like. And,
Well, if you do what George wants, then you aren't denying that right, and then Mester can build in there. So that's part of what George would allow us to do.
Did you do some research on that 10-acre rule? Somebody was going to...
I talked to the, now we had already talked to our city attorney and to DNR.
Okay.
I also
That's
asked...
a local ordinance rule that we have to change the ordinance for our zoning. It's our zoning, our ordinance 1 to 2.
And I talked to, the reason I handed you this today is I talked to our sanitarian and talked to her about the county zoning and stuff, and this is that septic tank law that went into effect July 1st. And we're sitting there looking at a number of people within our city limits that have septic tanks that will not meet these guidelines. And in order to do that, they're going to have to tear going to have to tear it up so they can expose the septic tank so she can inspect it, and then there's got to be the leach field and everything else, and we're sitting there going, good grief, there has to be an easier way to stimulate some development in the community.
Well, that's
without going
only
through
if they
this
sell
mess.
the property, though.
Right,
If
but
they-
we have
if they sell the
2
property.
cases right now.
Well,
Right
we
now
just have to look
that
at
That are
this.
thinking of selling?
are, yeah,
So what if there is not room for a leach field and there's no city sewer?
exactly.
Can't sell the property.
Exactly. So we're actually prohibiting economic development again. And I know there are ways to do this.
No, wait a minute, how are we limiting, if a person has a septic tank with no city sewer, how are we limiting some economic development?
And they can't sell the property, then what's it gonna do, sit there and rot?
Stops the sale of the property.
Not sell the property?
Right,
Okay. I
yeah.
don't know if that's to put no, I'm a little dumb on sewers, but could the new owner put a lift pump in somehow and get to the city sewer system?
I don't know, could he? Do you have a sewer system
Maybe
out
not.
there?
The two
Come on.
I assume you're talking about North Fifth?
North 16
Or
North
North
16th.
16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sewer starts at 16th and Ingersoll. It's deep out. Comes out of BT. It's the first, it's in the first bunch of houses that go in.
Well, to me, it's two different issues.
Yeah.
That, what George Glass wants to do, what he don't want to do.
Well, I don't think the council actually asked the P&Z board. We talked about it, but they did not dictate to ask that we review the 10-acre rule. They
No,
discussed it,
that
but
wasn't-
that wasn't asked to be reviewed.
I would not talk to
There were some questions asked about whether or not it was required, but we were never asked to review whether or not we should be changing.
I'm interested in your remarks about the USDA and the FSA and some of those people, because as I've been working with these people on the Clean Water Act and some of these different things, you know, farmers may soon be limited as to what they can put on their fields and stuff like that anyway, so it's not really going to be a big deal if it comes down in the farm industry, but that's the way they're going to have to comply. I mean, they're getting tight on everything.
Right, it's the unknown.
Yes.
And nobody knows what's going to happen.
You know, nobody knows,
It's
and
coming.
Right, it's really more government all the time.
Yeah.
the point is, it doesn't make any difference what's coming down, you know, as far as their rules and regulations. George's perception is he does not want to risk, you know, being a residential property and incurring, you know, the problems that might result from that. It may not. It's just that
After it was already, the city limits were already set, or?
It's after years.
Yeah, it's been in the
Years.
same.
Yeah, years ago.
Well, that goes back to why I brought that up the last time. If we're not willing to rezone our city limits where they're set now for the purpose of development, which is why they were set there, then why are they set there? Can they be moved? Get rid of our headaches.
All the city limits are squared up here pretty well.
Well, they are,
Well,
except they go.
they're
about
huge.
that,
I mean, and if this becomes this big problem, then, I mean, if we're not willing to rezone it, the way it's set, and I assume they set them out there that far so that we could have economic growth and development, but if we're not willing to do that, then maybe we should look at setting the city limits differently. Can you do that?
Well, you narrow the city limits, you narrow your tax assessment
Well,
too, so.
well, but-
And then we'll let the county have the development, so. And that's true,
There's an
Chris.
awfully lot of farm ground in our city limits.
Still is, yeah.
But then we gave everything out east, didn't we? All the city services out there.
Well, you know,
Yeah, well,
I-
that's another whole question. That's their problem.
Big mistake.
Yeah, that was a big mistake, but.
well, I'm just me, and I'm an outsider kind of, but to me, I understand both sides, but if, you know, right now, we need to, maybe we should just consider changing that and promote what we do have as R3.
And we can put a moratorium on
And-
this land for no development.
Well,
I don't think George had a problem with that.
yeah, well, I mean, you know,
Those kids
can he
don't
send
bring
it, can he sell it without the buyer knowing that there's a 10-acre rule, or?
We already did, Chris.
Well,
You know,
I know, but I mean-
that's the bad thing.
But I mean, if we
I don't
zone
think
it
he
the
knew about
way,
it at that time.
oh, really?
George
Then if we do
ordered
it the way he wants to,
I think I'd buy property and look into it.
I mean,
Well, I think normally
I
should.
I would, but
So let the buyer beware, because.
I mean, I don't want us
he's
to
that-
come to
he
a
didn't get it, so.
standstill on trying to, based on
Did he
this argument.
Is that Brian?
To me, it's not
Turn it
worth
back.
it.
Right, let's present something that'll be accepted. and
Yes,
move on.
Move on.
that's kind of my, I guess till next time.
what was that, do what?
Let's present something that
Let's
will be
present something that
accepted.
will be passed and promote those areas.
What are you,
And-
what are you gonna do over on Fifth Street then? You gonna just, what, the part that, is that all George's that goes all the way to Fifth Street?
No,
So what do you wanna do there?
George stops at the second fence.
So where there is development, do we wanna zone it for development, or do we wanna just go whatever? I mean, you know, I don't think those people have 10 acres out there to build on either, so.
So where is his on South Fifth? Where does his end?
If you look from where South 16th goes, if you look across, he owns up to the second fence. And it's not
Mailer's
really
got
marked on here that well.
Mailer's got sewer? They're in the same shape then.
Yep,
Yep.
They're in residential.
Okay, well they.
their lot is in residential.
Yes, just
All
right
they gotta
away.
do is go by the,
Is
whatever.
theirs the last one?
Sanitarian.
They are the,
Their lot is the city limit. Their
Right.
south boundary is the city limit.
Here?
In the Brown area?
When you say names, you're lost.
they're in the yellow R1.
Which is, yes, residential.
Unless I was informed wrong, their south property line is
He owns up to the, well, this isn't
Fifth Street is
correct.
not even on.
There's two fences if you walk it. And he owns the second, and you can see it from South 16th.
Didn't Ackerman buy it?
That's Myers.
Ackerman, yeah, Ackerman did buy it.
Right,
So he's been notified of that property that is closer to South Fifth.
well, Ackerman's
Steve
got
over here.
most of it outside.
City limits.
Yeah.
But this part we're talking about,
This-
it is not George's and is whoever
It-
Ackerman.
It's Myers, the last one that I knew.
That
That's behind Jackie and Brian Mailer.
I don't know.
That's a McIntyre that lives, he lives in Des Moines.
Well, this little,
And he kept that behind there and sold everything else to Ackerman.
this little strange spot here that's in the Brown is a lot that George said that he and Bonnie had considered building on 20 years ago.
That's right.
So they would have probably wanted it so appropriately.
Because this is the country.
Yep.
This is, yeah.
We could probably, I mean, the country club is an acceptable, the golf course is an acceptable use under R2.